Thanks for staying with us for Connect and Collaborate. Today we are talking with Job Creators Network about the Bring Small Businesses Back campaign, and we just spoke with Elaine. And coming up, we're talking with Alfredo Ortiz, President and CEO of Job Creators Network, and Jeff Wasden is joining me, the President of the Colorado Business Roundtable. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Tam. It's great to be here. It's great to talk to Alfredo Ortiz.
Alfredo Ortiz, we're so glad to have you with us, too.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate being on.
So you're the President and CEO of Job Creators Network. And Alfredo, could you tell us a little about Job Creators Network?
Sure. Actually, the organization was founded a couple years before I came on board. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that was actually founded by entrepreneurs and business owners who really believe that the best defense against bad government policy is a well-informed public. Kind of a simple thought, but an important one. And we really kind of advanced the mission and this belief through a program called the Employer-to-Employee Education Program, which really helps employers educate their employees on how these policies do impact them on a daily basis.
You know, one of the questions that I want to certainly jump into is, why is it in your mind, in your organization's mind, Alfredo, important for people who want a more vibrant economy, more jobs, to get involved in discussing government policies?
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, if we take a step back and just kind of look at, in general, small business and what that means for our country, if I could walk you through some quick numbers here, I think your listeners will find almost unbelievable. But there are 28.5 million small business owners in this country, and about 5.5 million or so employ roughly 10 people each. So that's about 55 or 56 million or so hardworking adult Americans employed by small business owners. And when you add that to the pool of 20.5 million or so small business owners, you're talking about 85 million or so people, hardworking Americans in this country, that are dependent on the success or failure of small business. And that doesn't even include family members, right? You add family members into that number, we talk easily maybe 110, 115 million people in this country are really impacted by the success or failure of small business.
Alfredo, can you tell us, how is government making it harder for those entrepreneurs and small business owners now?
Absolutely. It's a great question. We did a poll at the beginning of this year, a national poll among small business owners, and we found that roughly two-thirds mentioned overtaxation and overregulation, and then about a third lack of access to capital and credit being the three main drivers that are keeping them from really thriving, let alone barely even surviving. And the problem is, especially, for example, in the area of overregulation, for example, there's so many things that are coming at them so quickly that in many times they don't even know that they're non-compliant until they receive some kind of letter in the mail that says that they are. And, you know, we find that in many cases they spend so much time just trying to keep track of this. And, you know, most small business owners, they don't have a general counsel or a HR department. I mean, you know, in many cases you are, as the entrepreneur, you are the account payables, the account receivables, the general counsel, right, the HR department, right? There's so little time to be able to keep up with all these regulations that are keeping, you know, just people literally constantly changing and not really knowing what is in, what's out. And that's a big problem. And then you, of course, take the other elements of over taxation and lack of access to credit, and it's a very, very difficult task for our small business owners today.
As you've kind of highlighted some of these critical issues and areas, you know, that impact small business, overtaxation, regulation, access to capital, we've got this big Bring Small Businesses Back Tour event kicking off right here in Denver. Important question: are you driving the bus?
Well, we are figuratively and literally driving the bus. Yes, we are, and that's an important thing. And we. But the important thing is we need people there, right? My appeal to your listeners and everybody out there is that in order to be your voice, we have to hear your voice. And that's why we need people to attend this free event on Monday, August the 29th. And it's going to have fantastic people, Congressman Kaufman, Heidi Ganahl, for those of you who have heard that name before. She's the founder of Camp Bow Wow here in Colorado. But we really are here to listen to the challenges that our small business owners have, especially here in Colorado. You guys are probably familiar with this number as well, but small businesses account for 98% of Colorado businesses, 98%, and over 1 million people are employed by them, almost 50% of the private workforce.
So tell us more why people should come to this Bring Small Businesses Back event, and that's coming up on Monday at the Hyatt Regency in DTC.
Yes, absolutely. Well, again, you know, the big part is that being able to I call it fellowship with other small business owners, I think is important.
Sure.
To better understand, that in many cases, some people think, gosh, am I alone? Am I just kind of screwing things up? Am I not running my business? No, it's sometimes really good to hear when you have a couple hundred, 200-300 folks around you. They're saying, we hear the same exact problems. And I tell you, Pam and Jeff, when you have numbers like I just mentioned, 85 million hardworking Americans solely dependent on success or failure of small businesses, right? It's good to know that others are actually facing these challenges. And the one thing I always tell people, whether you're a D, an R, or an I next to your name, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent, right, this is a non-issue. It's not a partisan issue. It's not a party issue. This is an American issue, an American challenge. It's already hard enough for small business owners to succeed. Anybody who's took that leap of faith like I did, and I got into a small business, and fortunately it worked out well for me, it's a very, very tough business. And, the probabilities of success are already hard. And so when you add the elements of overtaxation, overregulation, and a lack of access to credit to already a challenging step in someone's life, right, it's just that much more difficult for our small businesses. And the problem is a lot of them are just giving up. And when you also see successful small businesses that are generationally trying to pass that on to their children, a lot of children are saying, you know what, Mom, Dad, thank you, but no thank you. The challenges that I see you guys facing day in and day out are just too much. I don't want that for my life. And that's the problem, is we're seeing some of these starts and the velocity of entrepreneurship really slow down. And frankly, in Colorado, that is something, such an entrepreneurial spirit. We need to do more for our small business owners to keep that American dream going.
You're listening to Connect and Collaborate, the voice of the Colorado Business Roundtable. We're talking today with Job Creators Network, and we're speaking with Alfredo Ortiz. He's the president and CEO of Job Creators Network, and we're discussing the Bring Small Businesses Back campaign coming up on Monday.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here and kick off this tour right here in Denver with the Congressman and Heidi. I understand there'll be also a panel there and an incredible opportunity for folks to really sit down and talk about how regulation impacts business and how we can try and get more access to capital for these small business and entrepreneurs, and what this regulatory burden and this taxation problem that we have in this company and the corporate tax rates. Can you talk a little bit about what other events do you have planned across the country once you leave Denver?
Well, we've got several stops. We're looking at potentially by the end of October, early November, we'll have about 40 stops in about just under a dozen or so states across the country. So by the time it's all said and done, hopefully we'll have heard from thousands of small business owners across the country about the challenges. And then we can take this information back to D.C. And that's where we say is, again, I keep saying this, in order to be your voice, we have to hear your voice, right? There's so many things that are coming at our small business owners. If I could, Jeff, just for a second, we mentioned overregulation, for example, there's a new rule that I'm not sure even how many people are aware of this, that takes effect on December 1st, a new overtime regulation. If you look at that, for example, this rule doubles the salary threshold in which salaried employees must receive overtime pay if they work more than 40 hours a week. And this is a major added cost to small business owners who pay their manager's salary to work until the job gets done. And the amazing thing is that there is no carve-out, no provision whatsoever for a small business owner. And for those of you who are entrepreneurs out there and small business owners are starting off, that frankly, a lot of times don't have the dollars to pay the full payroll, you found other ways to reward hard work through whether it's profit sharing, whether it's a piece of the company, right? These types of regulations are just going to make it that much harder for you to be able to manage your business that way. So again, being able to bring these things to light, listen to folks that are attending this across the country is an important element. And if I could also add, one of the things we are also very excited to be able to talk about on this tour is a piece of legislation that was introduced in Congress at the end of May, and we're trying to get support for this across the country. It's called the Bring Small Businesses Back Tax Reform Act. And this really helps reduce tax rates for pass-through businesses to 10% on their first $150,000 earnings and 20% on income under $1 million. This is a huge benefit for small business owners, and we know that this particular group of small business owners reinvest these dollars back into their business by hiring more people, buying an extra truck, adding an extra line. It's important that we have support for this bill as well.
You've mentioned the overtime rule. A couple things that we're facing in Colorado that certainly are going to impact our business community. One of them is a minimum wage increase here. and then certainly a Colorado Care Amendment 69, that's a form of a single-payer system that, again, is going to impact business adversely. These types of regulations like the overtime rule, and as you mentioned, so many other issues that make it a very difficult environment for small business and entrepreneurs to thrive. And we can't thank you enough for bringing the attention and for bringing this tour here to Denver. Can you let our listeners know, we've got less than a minute here, about where they can find information about Job Creators Network and the Defend Main Street program you guys have got going?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. DefendMainStreet.com is the website. DefendMainStreet.com has all the information I think your listeners will need in terms of what the tour is about, how to sign up for the tour. Again, it kicks off here in Aurora, Colorado, Monday, August 29th. Doors open at 8. It's at the Hyatt Regency Denver Tech Center. And if I could add, there are elements out there you just mentioned quickly, like the minimum wage, Amendment 69. These are job killers, right? When you look at what happens, for example, specifically even on Amendment 69, Colorado will become one of the highest tax states, if not the highest tax state in the country. And when you look at that, there is actually opposition to Amendment 69 on both sides of the aisle. And for good reason. And that's one of the important things that we need to talk about.
Thank you so much, Alfredo Ortiz, president of Job Creators Network. Next, we're going to talk with Congressman Mike Coffman and Heidi Ganahl more about the event coming up on Monday. So thank you very much.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back with more Connect and Collaborate after this.